projects. We've started the recording, Carol, so over to you for projects.
Okay, thank you very much. And first, just a huge thanks to both Neil and Sean for keeping us all super organised and everything coming together for these 2 days. So, projects. We introduced assess projects when we started doing continuous assessment a few years back here at IHBZale. And why we did this was for various reasons. In fact, projects are always lovely, but one of the things that always kind of gets to me is that all that collaborative sharing ideas and preparing with monolingual groups, particularly younger learners and teens, tends to the majority of it is happening in L1. Making the project assessed, and one of the key features of the assessment being the fact that students have to speak English, hugely upped the amount of English that was being spoken in class. And in fact, it has now become one of the favourite reasons amongst teachers for using projects with students, as they get some of the most productive days of lessons in a term with them. We also chose projects in addition to more traditional methods of assessment because we wanted to do something that would get students actually using the language that they've been learning. So our topics, our projects are all linked into the typical coursebook topics. You could possibly predict a few. I'm about to show you some of the topics we've got, but you could take a guess at some of the likely candidates. And also, as was mentioned in one of the sessions earlier today, the fact that you have an interesting, fascinating topic in a book, just the fact it's in the book may switch some students off from it. So taking it out of the book a little bit and turning it into a project encourage more interaction between the students and the material that they've been studying. Bit of personalisation, more opportunity for creativity. So the topics, these are some of the projects that we've got on the go at the moment. As you can see, nothing too surprising there, really. But it's what you do with them that hopefully gets some interest going. So our projects follow 3 key stages, namely a preparation stage and 2 parts of a presentation stage. So the preparation is where students are working in groups and planning and deciding and creating whatever their objective is. And then the presentation is divided into 2. So they have something to write up, which is individual. So everybody in the group gets to chip in with something different. And then they have to present what they have prepared in some way or another to the rest of the group. Okay, before I go on to waffle a bit more about how we go about actually assessing these, I thought we could just talk through how a project actually works in practice. So what we've got here isn't a full project, but some little snippets of a double A4 side that the students would actually get, but just to give you a little bit of a flavour. So starting off with some tasks to get students' heads into the zone of whatever their topic is. So we have here the quote at the top: in real life, criminals tend to be caught and punished. In fiction, however, charismatic criminals literally get away with murder as we cheer them on from the safety of our sofas. And students can just discuss this for a bit and get them thinking about crimes. This particular project has a second generalizable getting interested one. We had a list of various crime scenes from movies, mostly well known, which students can do a ranking activity and decide, yes, this is the best crime scene ever, or they can contribute with their own ideas as well. Moving slightly closer nearer where they're going to be actually working on their own project, a list of features, typical features in a crime involving the car chases, the evil villains, and numerous other things, where again they have to discuss the importance of each of these. Basically to get them thinking about what all the kind of elements that are going to be involved in a crime story. And by this time, they're now ready to move on to the main bit of the preparation stage, which is to put together their own plan for the perfect crime. And they're given some things to be thinking about, so they have to consider the profiles of the criminal mastermind and his gang, what the objective of the crime is, how they're going to get away, etc. Once they've got their crime perfected, then they have to do the written outcome. And what we try to do here is give, groups are usually 3 to 4 students, so everybody gets a different thing to be working on, so that we don't have one collaborative text put together. So in this case, somebody is going to write a psychological profile of the criminal, or the leader of the gang. Someone else is going to write a news story to appear on the front page of the newspaper. Someone else can be working on a police report, and someone else not preparing a script, but preparing the story outline that they could present to Hollywood as they are trying to pitch their film. One of the advantages with this having the different tasks, but still on the project theme, is it becomes much more communicative in writing, because they are not helping each other to write word by word what they're doing, but they do get to still discuss the content and the details. And of course, the teacher is still monitoring them for use of English so that they can be bumping up their scores from whatever they have said in the previous preparation stage. Finally, they have their presentation, and rather than just getting them to stand up and tell their colleagues, this is what we did and this is our story and thank you very much and now we'll sit down, we try to give it some kind of framework, so that they have more of a purpose to their presentation, and so that the audience, very importantly, gets to, I'm being distracted by a different picture there. And the audience gets have a reason to participate as well. So in this case, we ask them to imagine they are now on Crime Idol. The prize being, that the best crime that is presented on the show, the police forces are going to allow it to take place, and they'll have an opportunity to carry out their crime. And the audience, the other groups, get to act in the role of the judge panelists and commenting on the crimes as they take turns to put forward. So just a rough idea of how a project, these different stages might fall together. And so to the assessing of the project, this was our first attempt at a project feedback form. The marks our students get, now I'm not going to go into discussing the credit system, but basically we give marks in percentages and then we transfer all that to credits. But really the marks for the project could be given as a mark out of 10, a percentage, whatever system you feel suits. So originally they were given marks for their oral contribution and the effort that they put in the preparation stage, which would get them 2 credits out of a 5 possible. And then in the presentation stage, they would pick up a credit for their actual oral presentation and a further 2 for their written work. This has been undergoing a bit of an overhaul this year. So here we've got some of the criteria that teachers are considering when they're assessing the project. So above the little starry line, you can see that before we really did just consider the amount of English, whether it was Portuguese or English, and the quality of the language that was being used, with a little bit of a nod to effort. We've now we're attempting to become much more specific, with a view to trying to help students work towards improving in further work. So we are still, prime concern is using English only, and then there's the usual suspects of range, accuracy, fluency, pronunciation, interaction. But we then add more sub-skills for both the preparation and the presentation, slightly different sub-skills for both of them, such as showing agreement or getting a group back onto tasks, being able to prioritize. Similarly with the presentation, we're looking, can students develop key points? Can they illustrate their ideas? Can they use the language to draw in the audience? And this all now looks something like this. And we now have a nice rainbow to add into it as well. This is only the top third of our form. There's a lot of boxes missing, but just to give you an idea, is a report form that students might get at the moment. The skills above the line are the ones that we expect everybody to be getting some comments on. We expect everybody to be reviewing features of this some way or another. And the ones below the line are the more sort of variable ones. So not everybody is going to be getting ticks in all of these boxes, and that's fine. You might not make any suggestions, but you might do something else throughout the time that the project runs. Why this is helpful, I think, particularly, well, partly for teachers, it gives you an extra layer of guidance so that you can be thinking about what it is that you're looking for as you're listening to students preparing and putting into practice their projects. But also for students, if they're going to get feedback at the end of it, it's trying to get them beyond the just wanting to know, what was my mark? Did I pass? Did I fail? Did I get my credits? But thinking about how well they actually did. What were they doing with their English during this 3 or 4 lessons of project time? It will let, regardless of their level, give them some indication of how they can go about improving, so that the good students can have some indication of how they can become excellent. The weaker students know what they need to do to be getting up to basics. So everybody gets some idea of what they're doing well and a way that they possibly could carry on. I think I'm just about in time now, so I shall stop there. Just to finally quickly mention, on the blog there are some, I think, yeah, the irritating things I think you can download now as an example of one project. And there's a pack of other projects that we have used available in the zip file and available on the blog that you can have a look at and use to play around with, use, assess, use not assess, use however you wish. Thank you very much.
Much indeed.